The great hall of Viridian Prime stretched out like a crystal cave filled with light. 7 different species sat around the massive table, each one representing billions of beings across the galaxy. The air hummed with sounds that no human ear could understand. Clicks, whistles, and strange musical tones that served as languages for these alien races. Ambassador Thylex raised one of his crystal arms to get attention. His body looked like living glass, blue and clear, with light moving through it like electricity. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "We have a new report from the Outer Rim," Thylex announced. "Our scouts have found another primitive world." The other council members turned their attention to him. High Speaker Vorthak, whose head was large and smooth like an egg, leaned forward. Purple energy danced around his skull as he used his mind powers to read the thoughts of everyone in the room. "Tell us about these creatures," Vorthak said without moving his mouth. His voice appeared directly in their minds, cold and commanding. Thylex touched a crystal panel in front of him. A hologram appeared above the table, showing a small blue planet with white clouds and brown continents. "They call themselves humans. They live on a world they name Earth. Our scouts say they are very violent and cannot work together." Trade Master Quillion laughed with 4 different mouths. His body looked like a giant spider made of metal, with 8 arms that could work on different tasks at the same time. Violent primitives? How refreshing. Are they worth enslaving? "That is what we must decide," Thylex replied. "They have discovered fire and basic machines. They have split the atom and can fly in their atmosphere. But they fight each other constantly. Wars cover their planet." High Speaker Vorthak's eyes glowed brighter. "Fighting shows they have spirit, but it also shows they are dangerous. Wild animals that might bite their masters." Fleet Commander Zephyros spread his golden wings and stood up. He was tall and proud, covered in feathers that shined like metal. His people, the Avians, had conquered 12 star systems through pure military might. "Perhaps we should destroy them before they become a problem," he said in his singing voice. "Wait," said Navigator Prime Ulthan. Her blue skin was covered in scales that moved like water. "Our scouts say these humans have not even left their star system. How can such primitives threaten us?" Thylex nodded. "Exactly. They still use chemical rockets. Very slow, very weak. They have not discovered faster-than-light travel. But they will," said Weapons Master Korak. His red eyes glowed in his reptilian face. "All species eventually reach for the stars. When they do, they either bow to us or we crush them. Better to crush them while they are still weak." Trade Master Quillion moved 2 of his metal arms across the hologram. "Their world has good resources. Metals we can use, water we can sell, and the humans themselves might make good workers if we train them properly." High Speaker Vorthak stood up. His presence filled the room like a dark cloud. "I have decided. We will send a pacification fleet. 200 ships should be enough to make them surrender or die." 200 ships for one primitive world?" asked Ulthan. "Is that not too many?" Zephyros laughed. "Better to use a big hammer than let the nail bend. I will lead the fleet myself." "No," said Vorthak. "You will lead, but I want to be sure these humans understand their place. We will offer them the choice: join the galaxy under our rule or be removed from it." Thylex's crystal body flashed with approval. "A wise choice. The other primitive species will hear about this. They will know what happens to those who might resist us." The council members looked at the hologram of Earth spinning slowly above their table. They saw a small, weak world filled with creatures that fought each other instead of working together. They saw easy prey. None of them knew that human ships had been watching their space for months. None of them knew that human computers had already broken their communication codes. None of them knew that everything they said in this room was being recorded by devices too small to see. High Speaker Vorthak raised his arms. "It is decided. Fleet Commander Zephyros will take 200 ships to the human world. He will give them one chance to surrender. If they refuse, he will show the galaxy what happens to species that do not know their place." Zephyros bowed his head. "It will be my honor. How long should I wait for their answer?" "1 of their days," said Vorthak. "That should be enough time for them to discuss it and choose wisely." "And if they choose to fight?" asked Quillion. Korak's laugh sounded like rocks breaking. Then they will learn that primitive weapons cannot hurt ships built by civilized beings. The council members began to leave. They talked among themselves about how easy this would be. They had done this same thing to dozens of other worlds. Sometimes the primitives surrendered and became useful slaves. Sometimes they fought and got destroyed. Either way, the galaxy became more organized and peaceful. Thylex remained behind to study the hologram of Earth. He had conquered many worlds in his long life. This one looked no different from the others. A small planet with creatures that did not understand how big and dangerous the universe really was. He touched his crystal panel again. The hologram changed to show human cities. The buildings were small and simple compared to the great crystal spires of his own world. The humans themselves looked weak. Soft skin, small bodies, no natural weapons like claws or fangs. Pathetic, he said to himself. But something in the images made him pause. The humans had covered their entire world with roads and buildings. They had machines everywhere. Their cities glowed with lights even at night. For primitives, they had changed their world quite a lot. Thylex shook his crystal head. All young. Species went through this phase, building things, changing their environment, thinking they were clever. Then they met the galactic community and learned that they were just children playing with toys. He turned off the hologram and walked toward the door. Tomorrow, Zephyros would take the fleet to human space. In a few days, this would all be over. The humans would either be new slaves or a destroyed example for other primitives to learn from. Either way, the galaxy would remain under control. As Thylex left the Great Hall, his footsteps rang against the crystal floor like bells. He did not know that far away, in the cold space between stars, human eyes were watching his world through instruments he could not imagine. He did not know that human minds were already planning for the fleet that would come to Earth. He did not know that humans had been preparing for this moment for longer than his species had existed. The Galactic Council had made their decision. They would send 200 ships to demand the surrender of humanity. Humanity had made their decision too. They would be ready. The black ship hung in space like a sleeping giant. It was longer than 3 city blocks and covered in armor that seemed to drink in starlight. No lights showed on its surface except for the soft blue glow coming from its engines. This was the UES Indomitable, humanity's most advanced warship. Inside the ship, Captain Kang Dae-ho stood on the bridge, looking at the stars through the main screen. He was a tall man with gray in his black hair and scars on his hands from old battles. He had fought in the colonial wars when humans first spread to other planets. He knew what war looked like when survival was at stake. "Captain," called Lieutenant Park So-min from her station. She was young, maybe 25, with quick fingers that danced across her control panels. "I'm getting more signals from the alien fleet." Kang turned to face her. "What are they saying?" So-min's face was serious as she listened to her headphones. "They're planning their attack route. They want to come out of hyperspace near Neptune and move toward Earth slowly. They think it will scare us more if we see them coming." Commander Lee Hyun-woo walked up to stand beside the captain. He was shorter than Kang, but built like a soldier, which he had been before joining the Space Navy. "How many ships are they bringing?" 200 confirmed, So-min replied, all armed with plasma weapons and energy shields. Chief Engineer Choi Min-ho looked up from his engineering station. He was a thin man who always seemed to have grease on his uniform, but his mind was brilliant. "Captain, our quantum drives are ready. We can be at Neptune in 6 hours." Dr. Kim Yoon-ji stepped forward from her science station. She was the ship's doctor and scientist, a woman who studied alien life forms. "Captain, I've been analyzing their communications. These aliens have fought many wars, but always against primitives. They use the same tactics every time. Show up with overwhelming numbers and demand surrender." Kang nodded slowly. "What else?" "They've grown lazy," Kim continued. "Their weapons haven't improved in hundreds of years. Their ships are big, but not very smart. They depend on fear and numbers instead of technology." So-min raised her hand. "Captain, there's something else. They're broadcasting their battle plans to their entire galaxy. They want everyone to watch them conquer Earth." A slow smile spread across Kang's face. "Good. Then everyone will see what happens when you threaten humanity. Lee frowned. Sir, 200 ships against one. Even with our advantages, those are terrible odds. Are they? Kang asked. Minho, how long would it take you to disable their communications? The engineer grinned. With So-Min helping? Maybe 10 minutes? Yunji, how long to analyze their shield frequencies? The doctor checked her computer. I already have them. Their shields are tuned to stop plasma and energy weapons. They've never seen kinetic rounds or quantum disruptors. Kang walked to the center of the bridge. Hyunwoo, in all your years of military service, what's the most important rule of warfare? Lee answered immediately. Never fight fair when your people's lives are at stake. Exactly. Kang looked at each of his crew members. They're coming to our home. They want to enslave or kill every human being alive. They think we're primitive and weak. So-Min spoke up quietly. Sir, what if we're wrong? What if their technology is better than we think? Kang's expression became serious. Then we die fighting, but we don't die on our knees. The bridge was quiet for a moment. Then Minho laughed. Captain, have you seen what the engineering teams have been building? These aliens are about to get the shock of their lives. Tell me, Kang said. Minho's eyes lit up with excitement. Quantum disruptors that can tear apart molecular bonds, gravitational torpedoes that create miniature black holes, neural jamming, systems that will shut down their telepathic species, and the temporal displacement cannons, those beauties can age a ship 10 years in 10 seconds, Kim added. Plus, our medical bay can handle any alien biology if we need to take prisoners. We've studied their physiology from the communication signals. So-Min held up a small device. And this little thing can hack into any computer system in the galaxy. While they're trying to fight us, I'll be taking control of their entire fleet network. Lee nodded with approval. What about their numbers advantage? What numbers advantage? Kang asked. They're bringing 200 ships that were built to fight primitives. We're bringing one ship that was built to fight gods. The captain walked to his command chair and sat down. So-Min, record a message for Earth Command. Recording, sir. Kang looked directly into the camera. Admiral Chen, this is Captain Kang aboard the Indomitable. We have intercepted alien communications confirming a hostile fleet approaching Earth. 200 ships armed with conventional energy weapons. They plan to demand our surrender or destroy our world. He paused, then continued. We are moving to intercept. We will engage the enemy fleet before they reach the inner system. If we fail, Earth will have time to prepare defenses. If we succeed, he smiled. Well, the galaxy is about to learn that humanity is not as primitive as they think. End recording, he said to So-Min. Send it on the quantum relay. Sent, sir. Minho called out from engineering. Captain, all systems are ready. Quantum drives charged, weapons loaded, shields at maximum. Excellent. Kang stood up. Set course for Neptune. Best speed. Course laid in, reported Lee. Take us out, Commander. The Indomitable began to move. Its quantum drives made no sound, but space around the ship seemed to bend and twist. In seconds, the black warship was traveling faster than light, racing, toward an encounter that would change galactic history. On the bridge, the crew worked quietly at their stations. They were not afraid. They had trained for this moment their entire careers. They were the best humanity had to offer. Soldiers, scientists, and engineers who had volunteered to stand between Earth and anything that threatened it. As the ship flew through space, Dr. Kim studied the alien fleet's composition. Captain, they have 7 different species in their fleet. I'm seeing crystalline beings, telepaths, reptilians, avians, aquatics, and some kind of mechanical race. Weaknesses? Kang asked. Many. The crystallines are brittle under kinetic impact. The telepaths can't function if their brain waves are jammed. The reptilians are cold-blooded and slow in low temperatures. Each species has vulnerabilities they've never had to worry about because they only fight primitives. So-Min looked up from her station. Captain, I'm monitoring their communications. They're laughing about how easy this will be. They think one human ship is going to surrender immediately when it sees their fleet. Lee shook his head. They have no idea what they're about to face. Good, said Kang. Let them keep thinking that. The longer they underestimate us, the more complete our victory will be. The Indomitable continued its journey toward Neptune, where destiny waited. Behind them, Earth continued spinning peacefully, unaware that its fate was about to be decided by a single ship and its crew. In the depths of space, two civilizations were about to meet. One had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years through fear and overwhelming force. The other had spent centuries perfecting the art of warfare through necessity and innovation. Only one would leave the battlefield unchanged. The hunt was about to begin. The alien fleet came out of hyperspace like a metal storm. 200 ships of different shapes and sizes appeared near Neptune, their hulls gleaming in the distant sunlight. Some were long and thin like spears, others round like bubbles, and a few looked like giant insects made of steel. Fleet Commander Zephyros stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Golden Talon. His golden feathers caught the light as he spread his wings in satisfaction. Through the main screen, he could see the small blue world that was their target, far away but clearly visible. "Navigator," he called in his musical voice. "Scan the system for human ships." Navigator Prime Ulthan worked at her controls, her blue, fingers moving quickly across the panels. "I'm detecting some primitive satellites and space stations around the planet. Very basic technology. But, sir," she paused. "What is it?" "There's one ship, much larger than the others. It's positioned between us and their world." Zephyros laughed, a sound like beautiful singing. "One ship? Show me." The main screen changed to show the Indomitable hanging in space. It looked small compared to their massive fleet, just a black shape against the stars. No lights, no movement, just sitting there waiting. Weapons. Master Korak hissed with amusement. His red eyes glowed brighter as he studied the human ship. "It looks like a piece of space junk. Are they trying to scare us with that thing?" "Maybe it's a cargo ship," suggested Captain Vex of the Serpent's Fang. "Perhaps they're bringing us gifts to avoid being destroyed." The bridge crew laughed at this idea. They had seen many primitive species try to buy their way out of conquest with gold and art. It never worked. Zephyros raised one wing for silence. "Open communications with the human ship. Let us give them their chance to surrender." The communication officer, a crystal being like Thylex, touched his control panel. "Channel open, Commander." "Human ship," Zephyros announced, his voice carrying across space. "I am Fleet Commander Zephyros of the Galactic Council. You are surrounded and outnumbered. Surrender now, and your species will be allowed to live as, servants. Refuse, and we will turn your world into dust." For a long moment, there was only silence. Then a human voice came through the speakers, calm and clear. "Fleet Commander Zephyros," the voice said. "I am Captain Kang Daeho of the UES, Indomitable. You have entered our solar system without permission. You have threatened our world and our people. You have one chance to leave peacefully." The alien bridge erupted in laughter. Even the serious Korak was hissing with amusement. One ship giving an ultimatum to 200 ships? It was the funniest thing they had heard in years. Zephyros wiped tears from his golden eyes. "Captain Kang, you seem to misunderstand your situation. We have 200 warships, you have one. Perhaps your counting skills are as primitive as your technology." "I count just fine," Kang replied. "I count 200 ships that are about, to become 200 pieces of scrap metal if you don't turn around and leave." This time the laughter was even louder. Some of the alien captains were holding their sides. Others were making jokes in their own languages. Zephyros shook his head. "Humans are even more foolish than our reports suggested." "Very well, Captain Kang. You have refused our generous offer. Prepare to watch your ship die, and then your world." "Commander," called Ulthan, "should we charge weapons?" "Yes," Zephyros said. "All ships target the human vessel. Fire on my command." 200 alien ships turned their weapons toward the Indomitable. Plasma cannons glowed with deadly energy. Energy projectors hummed to life. Missile tubes opened like hungry mouths. Captain Kang's voice came through the speakers one more time. "You came to our home uninvited. You threatened our people. Now, you'll learn why humans have never lost a war when our survival was at stake." Zephyros spread his wings wide. "Fire!" The space around Neptune lit up like a new sun. Thousands of plasma bolts, energy beams, and missiles flew toward the lone human ship. The aliens watched with satisfaction as their weapons struck their target. But when the light faded, The Indomitable was still there, not damaged, not destroyed, just hanging in space exactly where it had been before. "Impossible," whispered Korak. Alton was working frantically at her controls. "Sir, their ship absorbed all our weapons fire. I'm reading some kind of quantum crystalline armor that converted our energy weapons into power for their own systems." Zephyros felt a cold fear creep into his heart. "All ships, fire again! Everything you have!" The second barrage was even more intense than the first. Every ship in the alien fleet poured everything they had at the human vessel. The space around it became a storm of deadly energy. Again, when the firing stopped, the Indomitable remained untouched. Captain Kang's voice returned, and this time it was different, colder, more dangerous. "Our turn." What happened next became known throughout the galaxy as the 15 minutes of silence. The human ship began to move, not fast, but with purpose. As it moved, it began to fire weapons that the aliens had never seen before. Blue beams shot out from the Indomitable and struck the nearest alien ships. Where the beams hit, the ships simply came apart at the molecular level, their hulls dissolving like sugar in water. Missiles launched from the human ship, but these were not normal missiles. When they reached their targets, they created tiny, black holes that pulled entire vessels into nothingness. Strange waves pulsed out from the human ship. Where they passed, the telepathic species found their minds clouded and confused. They could no longer communicate with each other or coordinate their attacks. Other beams struck alien ships and made them old. In seconds, new hulls became ancient and rusted. Fresh weapons became broken and useless. Entire vessels aged decades in moments. But perhaps the most terrifying thing was what happened to their computers. One by one, alien ships lost control of their own systems. Their weapons turned off. Their engines shut down. Their life support systems began to fail. Lieutenant Park So-min was inside their networks, taking control of everything electronic in the alien fleet. Zephyros watched in horror as his magnificent fleet was destroyed around him. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were being disabled by a single human vessel. His proud warriors were helpless against weapons they had never imagined. "Retreat!" he screamed. "All ships, retreat!" But it was too late. The human ship was moving through their formation like death itself. Every weapon it fired disabled another alien vessel. Every system So-min hacked made another ship helpless. In 15 minutes, 200 alien warships had been reduced to floating scrap. Some were cut in half by quantum disruptors. Others were aged into rust by temporal weapons. Most were simply dead in space, their crews unconscious from neural jamming, or their computers controlled by human hackers. The Golden Talon was one of the last ships still working. Zephyros stood on his bridge, his golden feathers now dull with fear and shame. Around him, his crew stared at their instruments in disbelief. Captain Kang's voice came through their speakers one final time. "Fleet Commander Zephyros, this is Captain Kang. Your fleet has been neutralized. Your crews are alive but unconscious. You have two choices, surrender and live, or continue fighting and join them." Zephyros looked at the human ship on his screen. It still looked the same. Black, quiet, showing no signs of damage from the battle it had just won. Zephyros began, then stopped. His voice was no longer musical. It was broken and defeated. "I surrender." "Good choice," Kang replied. "Now, listen carefully. We're going to have a conversation with your entire galaxy." Across the galaxy, beings of 1,000 different species stopped what they were doing. On crystal worlds, in underwater cities, in space stations floating between stars, everyone was watching the same transmission. The Galactic Council had wanted the galaxy to see human defeat. Instead, they were witnessing something that would change everything. Lieutenant Park So-min had broken into every communication network in known space. Her fingers moved across her controls like a musician playing a complex song. Every screen, every communication device, every public display in the galaxy now showed the space around Neptune. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Kang stood before the main camera. Behind him, the disabled alien fleet floated like dead fish in an aquarium. 200 ships that had been the pride of galactic military might were now helpless hulks drifting in space. "People of the galaxy, Kang began, his voice calm and steady. "We are humanity. For months, we have been watching your civilizations. We came in peace, hoping to learn about your cultures and perhaps join your community as equals." Dr. Kim Yoonji worked at her station, sending detailed information to every corner of galactic space. Technical data, scientific analyses, and cultural reports flowed through the networks faster than anyone could stop them. "Instead," Kang continued, "your leaders decided we were a threat. Not because we attacked anyone, but because we existed. They sent this fleet to our home with orders to enslave or destroy us." On the crystal world of Viridian Prime, Ambassador Thylex watched the transmission with growing horror. His crystal body flickered with confused lights as he saw his invincible fleet floating powerless in space. "Impossible," he whispered. "They are primitives. Our scouts confirmed it." But the evidence was floating before his eyes. The Golden Talon, flagship of their greatest fleet commander, was as dead as the rest. Only emergency lights flickered in its darkened corridors. Kang gestured to Commander Lee Hyun-woo, who stepped forward. "I am Commander Lee of the human military. Let me explain what you just witnessed. Your fleet came to our system with weapons designed to fight primitives. Energy weapons, plasma cannons, basic missiles, technology that has not improved in centuries." Lee touched a control, and the screen showed technical diagrams of the alien weapons compared to human technology. "We, on the other hand, have spent our entire history learning to fight, not against primitives, but against each other. We have turned warfare into a science." On the aquatic world of Thalassa, Navigator Prime Ulthan floated in her command pool, her blue body shaking with fear. The technical data flowing across her screens showed human technology that was hundreds of years ahead of anything the galaxy possessed. "Quantum disruptors that can tear apart any matter," Lee explained as the diagrams showed alien ships dissolving under the blue beams. "Gravitational weapons that create controlled black holes. Neural jamming systems that can shut down any brain-based communication." The screen changed to show the temporal displacement cannons in action. Alien vessels aged decades in seconds, their hulls rusting and their systems failing from old age. "And temporal weapons that can make your newest ships older than your oldest civilizations," Lee said with a slight smile. Chief Engineer Choi Min-ho took the camera next. His uniform was still stained with grease, but his eyes were bright with pride. "Your ships are big and impressive, but they are not smart. Our computers are inside your networks right now. Every system you have is under our control." To prove his point, Somin made the lights on several alien ships blink in sequence, spelling out "Hello" in Galactic Standard script. "We could have destroyed your fleet completely," Min-ho continued. "Instead, we chose to disable it. Your crews are alive. Your ships can be repaired. We did this not because we are weak, but because we are strong enough to choose mercy." Dr. Kim stepped forward to address the camera. "I am Dr. Kim, human scientist and physician. We have studied all of your species during these months of observation. We know your biology, your psychology, your weaknesses, and your strengths." The screen showed detailed medical and technical information about each species in the alien fleet, information that should have been impossible for humans to obtain, but was now being broadcast to the entire galaxy. "We know that crystalline beings become brittle under kinetic impact," Kim explained. "We know that telepathic species cannot function when their brainwaves are disrupted. We know that reptilian species slow down in cold temperatures. On the Yai, reptilian world of Saurus Prime," Weapons Master Korak hissed in disbelief. "The humans knew things about his people that even some reptilians did not know. How is this possible?" "We know these things," Kim continued, "because we study our enemies before we fight them. It is something humans learned long ago. Knowledge is more powerful than weapons." Captain Kang returned to face the camera. "Your Galactic Council ruled through fear and overwhelming numbers. You conquered primitive species by showing up with hundreds of ships and demanding surrender. It worked because your enemies had no choice." The screen showed historical records of galactic conquests. Species after species had surrendered when faced with impossible odds. "But we are not like those species," Kang said. "Humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We have fought each other with sticks and stones, with swords and shields, with guns and tanks, with nuclear weapons and orbital bombardments. We have never stopped learning how to fight better. Commander Lee nodded. Every war taught us something new. Every battle made us stronger. By the time we reached space, we had turned warfare into an art form. And then we learned to fight in space, added Minho. Against asteroids, against radiation, against the vacuum itself. Space tried to kill us every day, so we learned to kill it back. Captain Kang's expression became serious. Your council sent 200 ships to destroy one world. They expected us to surrender or die. Instead, one human ship disabled their entire fleet in 15 minutes. So-Min spoke up from her station. Captain, I'm getting responses from across the galaxy. Some species are requesting immediate diplomatic contact. Others are asking for protection from the Galactic Council. And some? Kang asked. Some are mobilizing their own fleets, So-Min reported. They think they can succeed where the Council failed. Kang turned back to the camera. To those species preparing for war with humanity, let me be very clear. The Indomitable is not our most powerful ship. It is not even our newest ship. It is a scout vessel, sent to observe your galaxy and report back to Earth. The silence that followed this statement was felt across 1,000 worlds. The human fleet, waiting in our home system, is much larger, Kang continued, much more advanced, much more dangerous. If you force us to bring our real warships to your worlds, you will discover that mercy has limits. Dr. Kim stepped forward again. But we do not want war. We came seeking peace and friendship. We still hope for these things. We propose a new galactic order, Kang announced. Not one of domination, but of cooperation. Not one of fear, but of mutual respect. We have proven we cannot be conquered. Now we want to prove we choose not to conquer. The transmission continued for another hour as the humans detailed their proposals for galactic peace. They offered technology sharing, cultural exchange, and protection for smaller species against larger aggressors. But throughout the galaxy, the real message was clear. Humanity had arrived, and they were not the primitives the Galactic Council had thought them to be. In the floating wreckage around Neptune, Fleet Commander Zephyros sat in his darkened bridge and wondered how his perfect life had become a nightmare in just 15 minutes. The galaxy had been silent when the human weapons fired. Now it would never be silent again. 3 days had passed since the battle at Neptune. The galaxy was no longer the same place it had been before those 15 minutes of silence. On Viridian Prime, the great crystal halls of the Galactic Council were empty. Ambassador Thylex stood, alone in the chamber where just days before they had laughed at the idea of human resistance. His crystal body flickered with uncertain light as he read report after report from across the galaxy. 12 species had already requested formal diplomatic contact with humanity. 8 others had declared independence from the Galactic Council. 3 species had offered to share their technology with the humans in exchange for protection. Most disturbing of all, 5 species had begun preparing their own fleets to attack Earth. They refused to believe that one ship could have defeated the Council's best fleet. They were convinced it had been some kind of trick. Thylex touched his communication panel. "Get me High Speaker Vorthak." The response came back immediately. High Speaker Vorthak is unavailable. He has locked himself in his chambers and will not respond to communications. Thylex was not surprised. The telepathic leader had been trying to read human minds during the battle transmission. Whatever he had found in those human thoughts had terrified him into silence. Meanwhile, in the outer regions of the galaxy, smaller species that had lived in fear of the Council for centuries were beginning to hope. On the forest world of Greenleaf, the peaceful Sylvani people gathered around their communication trees to watch recordings of the human captain's speech. "They offered protection," whispered Elder Moonbark, her bark-like skin rustling with excitement. "Beings who could destroy a Council fleet in minutes, and they offered to protect us instead of enslaving us." Young Sapwood, barely more than a seedling, asked, "Do you think they mean it, Elder? Or is this just another way to control us?" Moonbark studied the images of the disabled alien fleet. "Look at their ships, little one, still floating, still intact. The humans could have turned them all to ash, but they chose mercy. That tells me more about their character than any words could." On the aquatic world of Thalassa, Navigator Prime Olthan swam frantically through the command centers of her people's navy. She had been relieved of her position in the Council fleet after the disaster at Neptune, but her own people still trusted her judgment. "Admiral Deep Current," she called as she entered the main command pool, "we must discuss the human situation." The old admiral turned his massive bulk toward her. His ancient eyes had seen many wars and many defeats. "You were there, Ulthan. Tell me truly, are these humans as dangerous as they appear?" Ulthan's fins trembled as she remembered the battle. "More dangerous, Admiral. Their weapons were beyond anything we have seen. But that is not what frightens me most." "What then?" "Their restraint," Ulthan said quietly. "They could have killed us all in those 15 minutes. Instead, they disabled our ships and kept our crews alive. They had the power of gods, but they chose to act with the wisdom of the sea itself." Deep in space, aboard the Indomitable, Captain Kang stood in his ready room reading messages from Earth Command. The reports were both encouraging and troubling. Commander Lee entered the room. "Captain, we're receiving over 1,000 communication requests per hour. Everyone from species leaders to individual worlds wants to talk to us." "Any sign of the 5 fleets that are mobilizing against us?" Kang asked. "Yes, sir. The crystalline hegemony is sending 50 ships. The reptilian empire has launched 60 vessels. 3 other species are contributing smaller fleets. In total, we estimate around 200 ships heading for Earth." Kang smiled grimly. 200 ships again? They really don't learn, do they?" "Apparently not," Lee agreed. "But sir, these fleets are using different technology than the Council fleet. Some have kinetic weapons, others have gravity manipulators. They've been studying our battle and trying to adapt." Dr. Kim entered the ready room carrying a data pad. "Captain, I've finished analyzing the alien casualties from our engagement. All crew members are alive and recovering. The neural jamming left no permanent damage and the ships can be repaired." "Good," Kang said. "What about their morale?" "Completely broken," Kim reported. "Fleet Commander Zephyros has requested permission to speak with you privately. He seems to want to discuss surrender terms for his entire species." Lieutenant So-Min's voice came through the communication system. "Captain, priority message from Earth Command. Put it through," Kang ordered. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the screen. She was an older woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. "Captain Kang, congratulations on your victory. The entire system has been following your mission." "Thank you, Admiral. What are my orders regarding the approaching fleets?" Chen's expression became serious. "Earth Command has been monitoring galactic communications. We know about the 5 species preparing to attack us. We also know that many others are watching to see how we respond." "And?" "The Leviathan and her sister ships are ready for deployment," Chen said. "But first we want to give these approaching fleets one more chance to reconsider." Kang nodded. "What do you have in mind?" "A demonstration," Chen replied. "Something that will make it very clear what they're facing if they choose to continue their attack." Chief Engineer Choi Min-ho looked up from his engineering reports. "Admiral, the quantum drives are performing better than expected. We could reach their fleets while they're still in hyperspace." "Explain," Chen ordered. "Hyperspace is normally safe from attack," Min-ho said. "But our quantum disruptors can reach into hyperspace itself. We could disable their fleets before they even arrive at our system." Chen considered this. "That would certainly send a message. Captain, you have permission to intercept the approaching fleets. Use whatever force is necessary to protect Earth, but remember, we want allies, not more enemies." "Understood, Admiral." The transmission ended, and Kang turned to his crew. "Opinions?" Dr. Kim spoke first. "From a psychological standpoint, defeating them in hyperspace would be devastating to their morale. No species has ever developed weapons that can reach into hyperspace." Commander Lee nodded. "Tactically, it makes sense. Better to stop them before they reach our system than to fight them near Earth." So-Min raised her hand. "Captain, I've been monitoring their communications. These species are convinced that we used some kind of trick at Neptune. They think their new tactics and weapons will be enough to defeat us." "Then we'll have to educate them," Kang said. "Min-ho, how long to reach the first enemy fleet? If we leave now, we can intercept the crystalline hegemony ships in 6 hours. Do it." As the Indomitable prepared to depart, Kang looked out at the disabled alien fleet still floating near Neptune. Some of the ships were already being repaired by their crews. Others were sending messages of surrender or requests for peaceful contact with humanity. The galaxy was learning that humans could be merciful in victory. Soon, it would learn that humans could also be terrifying when their patience was tested. Commander Lee approached the captain. "Sir, what do you think will happen after we stop these new fleets?" Kang considered the question. "Hopefully the galaxy will realize that we mean what we say. We want peace, but we will defend ourselves. After that, maybe we can start building something better than what the Galactic Council created. And if they don't learn?" Kang's expression became cold. "Then they'll discover that the Indomitable is just the beginning. Earth has been preparing for this moment for longer than most species have existed. We have weapons and ships that even I haven't seen yet." The black ship began to move, its quantum drives bending space around it. In minutes, it would be traveling faster than light toward another confrontation. Behind them, the alien survivors watched the human ship disappear into hyperspace. They had learned to fear human technology and respect human mercy. Soon, the galaxy would learn to fear human determination. The age of human involvement in galactic affairs had begun, and despite what some species believed, resistance was not just futile, it was illogical. Humanity had offered partnership. For those wise enough to accept it, a new golden age awaited. For those foolish enough to refuse it, a very different lesson was coming. The galaxy's voice had been silenced that day at Neptune. When it spoke again, it would speak in a new language, one that included the word human as a synonym for impossible and inevitable at the same time.